If you opened your bank app right now, what number would stare back at you? Because here's a truth most people never say out loud. The average 25-year-old's bank account might not even touch $1,000. That's right. One emergency, one car repair, one rent increase, and they're broke again. But here's what's truly shocking. It's not that young people are careless or lazy. It's that most of them genuinely believe they're doing fine. They scroll through social media, seeing others sipping iced lattes, taking weekend trips, buying new phones, and assume everyone's managing just like me. Except they're not managing, they're surviving. See, we've built a world where looking rich feels more important than being stable. People chase lifestyles they can't afford just to feel like they're keeping up. And somewhere between student loans, rent, and a desperate need to feel successful, something quietly breaks their sense of financial security. Think about it. You spend years studying, graduate at 22, get your first job, maybe earning $40,000, $50,000 a year if you're lucky. But the math never adds up. After taxes, rent, transportation, groceries, a phone bill, maybe a gym membership, there's nothing left. You tell yourself, it's okay, I'll save later. But later never comes. And then one day you wake up at 25 and realize you've been working nonstop for 3 years, and your savings account still looks the same as it did in college. That's the quiet panic no one talks about. The moment you start questioning, is this really how adult life is supposed to feel? And that's exactly why we need to talk about it. Because this isn't just about money, it's about the illusion of progress. It's about why so many young adults look confident on the outside while feeling financially trapped inside. You're probably wondering, why am I talking about money like this? Basically, I study a lot about financial behavior, how money shapes our emotions, decisions, and daily lives. So, if you want to understand why people struggle with money, subscribe, because this channel isn't just about money, it's about understanding it. Now let's talk about why the average 25-year-old ends up here. Personally, I think it's not because they're irresponsible, but because the entire system, from education to lifestyle culture, quietly sets them up for this reality. And once you see how that happens, you'll never look at money the same way again. It starts earlier than most people think. Not at 25, not even at 18. It begins the moment we're told that success means a degree, a job, and a steady paycheck. From childhood, we're handed a blueprint that looks safe. Study hard, go to college, get a good job, and everything else will fall into place. And we trust it, because every adult we knew followed the same pattern. No one warned us that the world we'd inherit would be different, faster, costlier, and more demanding than ever before. At 18, most young adults sign their first major financial contract, a student loan, not realizing that they've just made a 10 to 20-year promise before even earning their first paycheck. It feels normal because everyone else is doing it. But by the time graduation comes, that normal decision turns into an invisible weight. Then comes the job hunt. A degree that costs $60,000 might only land a $45,000 a year job. And that's if you're lucky. You start working, feel proud, and think, okay, now I can finally start saving. Except every paycheck disappears like smoke, because the moment you start earning, you're surrounded by subtle messages whispering, you deserve it. You've worked hard, treat yourself. You're young, you have time. So, you buy a better phone, you go out more. You move into a decent apartment, not luxurious, just comfortable. And without realizing it, you start designing a lifestyle around your paycheck instead of your priorities. That's the trap. It's not greed, it's not stupidity. It's social conditioning disguised as self-reward. And then there's the comparison culture. Every scroll through social media reminds you that someone your age just bought a car, got engaged, or went to Bali. So, you start believing that success is visible, that you need to show progress to feel progress. And that's when credit cards quietly step in. A $200 dinner doesn't feel painful when you can pay it off later. A $1,000 vacation feels harmless when the payments are split into months, until later becomes always. By 25, the average young adult isn't broke because they're irresponsible. They're broke because every system around them encourages consumption over stability. They were never taught that saving is emotional discipline, not financial luck. That wealth isn't built from earning more. It's built from learning how not to spend everything you earn. And the irony? They don't even realize they're trapped, because on the outside, everything still looks fine. They have a job, they pay their bills, they post smiles online. But deep down, there's this quiet anxiety, the kind that creeps in at 2 a.m. when you check your balance and think, How is it possible I'm working full time and still feel behind? And in that restless feeling, that first seed of change quietly takes root. Because once you notice it, once you really see the patterns you've been following, something shifts. You start questioning not just your spending, but the way you think about money entirely. And in that realization lies the start of real change. You start to think you're running, to earn more, to buy more, to catch up. But you never stop to ask, catch up to what? That's where real change begins. Because financial freedom doesn't start with a bigger paycheck. It starts with a shift in perspective, from chasing comfort to building control. And that shift isn't glamorous. It doesn't look like driving a Tesla or wearing designer clothes. It looks like quietly saying no to things everyone else says yes to. See, most people think wealth is built from what you do with money, but it's actually built from what you don't do with it. You stop reacting. You start choosing. You stop buying to feel something. You start buying because it means something. That's where the separation happens between those who stay stuck and those who start climbing out. When you start tracking every dollar, not obsessively, but with awareness, something strange happens. You begin to see patterns. You realize how much of your spending wasn't about needs. It was about numbing. You weren't buying things, you were buying distractions from discomfort. And the moment you see that truth, you can't unsee it. Because now you understand. Money isn't just financial, it's emotional discipline. Every swipe, every purchase, every subscription is a micro decision that either moves you closer to freedom or deeper into dependency. And the scary part? Most people never notice that until they're 30, 40, 50, when the weight becomes unbearable. But if you see it at 25, if you catch the pattern now, you have an unfair advantage. You can start small, build an emergency fund, even if it's just $10 a week. Pay yourself first, before rent, before bills. Automate savings like it's non-negotiable. Because when you start treating savings as survival, not sacrifice, that's when the shift becomes permanent. And slowly, something beautiful happens. You stop craving validation. You stop comparing. You start feeling peace every time you don't spend. That's the paradox of wealth. The more you detach your happiness from money, the more money begins to serve you instead of own you. And when that happens, life stops feeling like a chase and starts feeling like control. But control doesn't mean isolation. It means purpose. Because once you've learned how to manage your money, the next question naturally arises. What do you do with that power? That's what we will talk about next. The truth, most people don't realize until it's too late. Because the average 25-year-old doesn't just need more money, they need clarity. Clarity about what truly matters and what's been quietly draining their power. You see, we've been taught to measure success by visible things, cars, clothes, lifestyle. But the wealthiest people I've met don't brag, don't flex, don't compete. Their peace speaks louder than their possessions. They understand something most people don't, that the goal was never to look rich. It was to stop worrying about money altogether. And that happens when your money finally aligns with your values, when you stop buying to impress and start building to express, when your spending reflects who you are, not who you're trying to prove you are. So, if your bank account doesn't look impressive right now, don't panic, because this isn't the end. It's your wake-up call. You're standing at the exact point where transformation begins. If you can master your emotions, your patience, and your discipline, then time itself becomes your ally. Your 20s are not your failure years. They're your foundation years. And one day, when you look back, you'll realize the moment you stopped chasing money was the moment money finally started chasing you.